The big name that has been floated in a potential trade is Myles Garrett because, as we know, during Super Bowl week, he had officially requested a trade from the Cleveland Browns. But I think there's another name that is a little bit under discussed right now and might actually be a better target potentially for the San Francisco 49ers. I know 49er fans love the idea of potentially getting Myles Garrett, but Max Crosby might be the name that the 49ers should be paying attention to. And this is what Ian Rapoport had to say about the entire situation regarding Max Crosby. So he goes on to say, still only 27, Crosby has said before he wants to be a Raider for life and has been loyal to the organization. And this is the typical pushback that I get from fans whenever I mention Max Crosby's name. But let's continue on. He also has been open about his frustrations with the team's seemingly endless string of changes and mounting losses. Crosby wants to win and be a big reason behind the success. While the hiring of Super Bowl winner Pete Carroll was a step towards stability, the Raiders still don't have a franchise quarterback and have a ton of work to do to field a competitive roster. Trading Crosby for a bounty of picks would be one way to expedite that process. And Crosby might welcome the change, particularly if it's to a playoff team where he knows people. And he mentions Green Bay. Crosby has 2 years and about 44 million remaining on the contract extension he signed in 2022. And we also understand that I do believe a big part of why Crosby is being considered as a potential trade guy is because he doesn't have any guaranteed money left on his deal, and as we know, that's a big sign of all right, what's the next step, and that's where the potential outs are in the contract. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because again, a lot of people have discussed the idea of potentially trading for Myles Garrett, who is 29 but the reigning defensive player of the year. And it really does seem like there's going to be a big market for Garrett, and honestly, just might be too expensive. Whereas maybe Max Crosby, you could actually get a little bit. He would be a little bit more cost effective in comparison to Myles Garrett. I don't necessarily think Crosby would be cheap by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think it would be interesting. I mean, he does follow a bunch of 49ers players on Instagram. He's talked highly about Brock Purdy on his podcast. I remember I did a clip of it where he was basically saying he doesn't understand why people call Brock Purdy a game manager. He thinks that he's a really good quarterback, and you know he got beat by um, Brock Purdy. If you guys don't remember, and like a come behind win, I think it was in 2022 when Brock was a rookie, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to jog my memory. Um, but I think that was the year. You can correct me in the comments below if it was 2023. But we know that, he's got a relationship with Nick Bosa. And, it does say that he might welcome the change, particularly to a playoff team. Well, I still think that regardless of how bad the 49ers were last year, I still believe they are regarded as a top team by players within the league. Now, I think anyone who has rational football sense can take a look at what the 49ers went through last year with a Super Bowl loss, drama filled offseason with contract extensions and holdouts, and one of their rookie wide receivers being shot in the chest. All these things happening before the season even started, and then when the season went on, they were not the best team, but if a couple games go a different way, they're in the playoffs. They sneak into the playoffs. If they don't, you know, let the Rams and the Cardinals and the Seahawks just come back. That if they win those 3 games, which they had the lead in the fourth quarter, They're a playoff team. Um, and even still, they were pushing for a playoff spot even late in the season. Now, obviously, a ton of injuries, a ton of things happen. Um, and now you look at it, you've got Robert Sala, you bring in Gus Bradley, you got Brant Boyd, you got some stability, I think, in the coaching ranks. You got Chris Kosurik, who could obviously be a big draw as well, and to play on the opposite side of Nick Bosa. So I do think Crosby is a name. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that he 100% gets traded, like, because clearly there hasn't been the same level of public clarification in regards to whether or not you know Crosby is available for a trade. But I do think it is an option, and I do think that some fans have been quick to shoot it down, particularly because of the notion of it being the Raiders and the Raiders blocking potential trades to the 49ers when the 49ers have offered better deals. For example, the Khalil Mack trade. Um, John Lynch famously said that, we gave a better compensation package, in our opinion, and they still sent him to the Chicago Bears opposed to the Niners. I think that was, what was that, 2017, 2018. So, anyways, a lot of that notion exists, but based on the way that I'm looking at the Raiders setup right now, is it really does feel like Tom Brady is playing a big role in how the operations side of things are going with the football team. And as an owner now of the Raiders, it really does seem like that could be the difference in doing business with the 49ers. Um, Tom Brady, I think thinks somewhat fondly of John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. So maybe there is a world that exists where Tom doesn't have those old memories of being in Oakland, or doesn't care about any of that. What Tom cares about is winning, and Tom cares about kind of resetting the foundation of that franchise. And they've had Max Crosby this whole time and still haven't won anything. Yes, he's been a great player. He's been a really good player. But like it says in the report, uh, he's voiced his frustrations. And, I, he's been bought into guys like Antonio Pierce. And then when you get rid of that guy, you're like, well, so I think when you have a bit of a reset occurring, and especially for a player like him who's 27, you kind of you don't want to reset again at that point in your career. You kind of want to potentially go and try to be on a winner, especially if they're not going to commit to you long term. So I do think there's a chance. I do think there's potential chance that the 49ers could absolutely be interested in this. We heard reports from Tim Kawakami that the 49ers would be definitely interested in potentially trying to trade for a big time edge. Maybe Max Crosby is one of them. What do you guys think about that? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.